Tuesday, March the 12th. Lake level's about the same as it's been the last week and a half, 2 weeks. It's right at 9:15. It'll go up a few inches and down. Water temperature, still pretty dang cold. It's 41 to 43 degrees. Hadn't been out the last few days, but it should be warming up because it hadn't been getting that cold the last couple of nights. But, you know, the fishing to me, it's been pretty dang tough. With the exception of the Alabama rig, even with the tournaments and stuff that's been going on this past weekend, the fish catching hasn't been real well unless you're throwing that A-rig. The one tournament, the OMTT, I think it took 18 pounds, only took 6 pounds to get a check. You know, a little over 6.5, I think. And that's kind of the way I found my fishing. I've been out quite a bit, and I've been practicing for these tournaments. They're non-A-rig tournaments, so that's the reason I haven't been throwing the A-rig too much. I like throwing it, but where I was pre-fishing for tournaments, there was no sense of throwing it if I couldn't fish that bait in the tournament. But anyways, I'd have one pretty good day, and then, you know, I could fish all day and maybe just get 1 or 2 bites. But I guess what I can do, I can tell you pretty much what I did in practice and how I caught them. Probably one of my best days of practice was up in Long Creek. From about Big Cedar Cove up to the Arkansas state line. And I caught some fish suspended on a little 2.8 Rage swimmer, 1/4 ounce head, Strike King Rage swimmer, and also just a milky white 5-inch grub, and I think just a gray with red flake would also work, but I was just counting it down about 8 to 10 feet over about 20 foot of water. And those fish were on gravel flats, and some of them were around the outside edge of deep boat docks. The problem has been for me is the consistency. You know, my most consistent bite up there that particular day was on a crankbait. And I was throwing a Strike King 5XD and also a Spro rock crawler. And it seemed like the reds, this one's a red with a black back, the rock crawler's red with a green back, but the reds were definitely working the best for me. And what I was doing was just getting on these straight vertical bluffs. Seemed like I had to have a little bit of timber or some laydowns. A lot of times the boat would be setting in, you know, 25, 30 foot, but I was paralleling the bank, casting right up to the bank. Some of the fish were coming as the bait was digging in on the rocks. Some of the times I think some of the fish were suspended in the timber where the crankbait might have been in, you know, 15, 18 foot of water, but it's only getting down about 9 or 10 feet. And I think the fish were suspended in that timber. Now, I caught, you know, probably more fish doing that. I just couldn't catch the quality. I did catch some keepers, and they were mixed smallmouth, largemouth, and a few Kentuckies. But as far as getting action, that was probably about my most productive bait. Now, I went up into the White River the next day, Baxter to Campbell Point, up into Big Creek. It was a beautiful day for throwing a jerkbait. And I just have really struggled to get a good solid jerkbait bite going. I mean, I can catch 1 or 2 off like a cedar tree or a pole timber just at the mouth of a spawning pocket. And then I'll go to 3, 4 other pockets just like it and not get a bite. And in the same areas, I'm trying to mix up a little 1/4 ounce Ned rig. I have caught some fish in them same areas on the days that the wind isn't blowing 20, 30 miles an hour. I've been catching them on a 1/4 ounce, 5 Fish Lures Ultimate Ned jig head with it's a Strike King Zero, either a green pumpkin or a dirt color. The problem is when you get the wind blowing like we've had every day, you can't fish this light line down 20 feet. You can never feel anything. The bite has been super light. The bottom bite for me has been pretty well non-existent as far as a jig, like a football jig or a finesse jig. I have not been able to get hardly any bottom bite unless it's on the Ned rig, or I can take that 1/4 ounce swim bait and scratch the bottom. And a lot of times what I mean by scratching the bottom, we'll set the boat 30 foot. And a lot of times these pockets are where the fish are going to spawn, but they're out on the outside edge, more towards the main lake side of it, the points coming into these spawner pockets. But setting the boat in about 30 foot, casting it in about 8 or 10, and just keep, reeling it really slow, keeping it in contact with the bottom. It's kind of what we call scratching the bottom. A lot of times you won't feel the bite, you'll just feel a little bit of pressure. Now, even with the wind that we've had, you would think that they would bite the crankbait, down in the clear water, like around Kimberling or Baxter or Kimball. But it seems like for me to get a crankbait bite, I've got to be either up in the James. I heard there was a good crankbait bite some days up in the Kings. Seems like I have to be in the off-colored water, and that's where that red crankbait's been working the best for me. On the jerkbait, if I get up into that stained water, the color that seems to be working the best is the Table Rock Shad, which is the old chartreuse with purple back. But when I'm down there in the clear water, the Spro mixed stick, I think it's called Blue Bandit. It's a blue back, with a little chartreuse stripe down the side. And then this old purple one here has been working well for me. Or not working well when I get a bite. This is the two colors I can get a bite on. It seems like you got to let it set. And I've had a hard time doing that. I'm trying to cover water, but there's been times I've had to let the bait set, 10, 15 seconds before I even move it. And when I move it, I'm not giving it hard twitches, I'm just moving it just a little bit. The thing I can find with my Garmin Panoptic is a lot of times I can visually see a tree out there 50 or 60 foot ahead of me or to the side, cast the bait out there, and sometimes you can actually see the fish in the tree and see your bait come by the tree and see how the fish react to it. Now, if you pick up an Alabama rig, you can really see those fish come charging out for it. I don't know why they like that crazy Alabama rig as much as they do, but you can take a single swim bait or an underspin and not get near the fish's attention that you can when you throw that A-rig. So, I mean, this is the time of year to start catching some big fish. I think there was almost a 27-pound limit caught one of the days this past weekend. I'd probably be throwing an A-rig, and I wouldn't set it down. I would fish it on vertical bluffs, on the bluff ends, and even, as the water gets warmer each day, with the weather getting warmer, the fish are going to start to move more up on a little bit shallower banks. Right now, I think a lot of them are on, if they're not so much in deep water, they're real close to it. But for the most part, the last couple of weeks, I have really struggled to get a consistent bite. I'm really hoping that's going to get better in the next week or two to come. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.